Welcome back to Fast RC, everybody. My name is Ryan. In today's video, we're going to talk about how to make your own decal sheets. So stay tuned, and I'll see you after the intro. Alright, so now that we're into this video, if you've watched my last video, which is about the Chevy Silverado Intimidator Traxxas / 4x4 build, you know that I use these decal sheets here. And I kind of briefly talked about them in that video about how I made my own decals, and obviously like you can't find these in stores anywhere. So in those situations, you end up having to make your own type of decals. And so that's what this video is about. It's really just going to be dedicated to how I created this decal sheet. And hopefully you get some tips out of this video. You kind of learn how to make your own decals. I'm going to cover everything. So I'm going to talk about the software that I use to make this decal sheet. Some of the little tips and tricks that I use to make these certain type of decals, like the Intimidator logos, the Chevy logos. I'll even cover a little bit of this undercarriage that I made too. Since it's kind of unique, it's something different that I wanted to do to my own vehicles, was put an undercarriage. So like I said, if you see my last video about the Chevy Silverado Intimidator, that's basically what this decal sheet was for. So like I said, I'm going to cover the software. I'm going to cover exactly what I use. We'll cover tips and tricks, how to make the actual like images and vector images to use for your decals. And then last, I'm going to talk about the company that I use to make the actual decal sheet. So I don't actually have like a decal printer. I actually sent these out to have them printed for me and then mailed back. So we'll cover all of that. First thing I'll say is that my way is not the absolute like perfect or most efficient way. It's just the way that I found to do things the easiest for me. And it's also not like the cheapest way either. And I'll explain that when I get to step 3. But that's it for that. So let's go ahead and dive into step 1. Alright, so let's get into the very first chapter of this video. So the actual software that I'm using. So what you're seeing here on the screen, you can actually see like my decal sheet that I showed you here just a second ago. These are the actual vector images that I use to create the decals. And so what you're seeing on your screen here is Affinity Publisher. And so the company is called Affinity, and it's kind of the best way to explain it. It's like the alternative to like Adobe Photoshop. So it's a much cheaper version, but I'll be honest, it's like I would say something like 95 to like 98% as capable as Photoshop at way less of a price. So I use Affinity. It's very, very potent. The thing to know about Affinity, there's actually 3 different softwares. There's Affinity Photo, Affinity Designer, and Affinity Publisher. What you're looking at here on the screen right now, this is Affinity Publisher, but if you look up here in the top left corner, you can see the other personas. The cool thing about Affinity is if you buy all 3 of the programs, they all work together as one super program, which is really cool. Publisher is kind of nice because it allows you to make, like if you wanted to make like a book or a magazine, you could do that in Publisher. But I just kind of use it because it has all my pages of decals that I plan on making now and in the future. But primarily when we're making decals like this, I'm usually going to work out of the middle one, this blue icon here, which is there's designer persona, which is designer is really like geared towards making vector graphics. And honestly, like when you're making decals, you're going to primarily be working with vector graphics. And so vector graphic, what that is just like a way of making a digital image based off of like pixels. And so we'll get into that here in just a second, but I want to show you guys the actual like Affinity software itself. So like I said, if you just go to Google Affinity or Affinity Designer or Affinity Photo, which is really popular, it's like the Photoshop equivalent. You can go ahead and click here, it's the top search, and if you go ahead and click that, you'll go right to Affinity. Looks like they got a 6-month free trial going on, which is really cool. I'll tell you what, so I actually do have a tab open for the price. So right now, if you go out and you get Affinity Designer 2, Photo 2, Publisher 2, all packaged together, it's $165, which is really not that bad. Like it's kind of expensive, but considering that Adobe Photoshop, if you were to get like the all-in bundle, like just Photoshop by itself, I think is at a minimum $20 a month. But all the other stuff, which is not like the vector graph designer or Illustrator, Photoshop or Adobe Illustrator, which is kind of similar to like Designer, I believe, or like Publisher. Sorry, I got them mixed up. The point is, if you get the whole package of Adobe, it's like $50 to $59 a month, and there is no like one-time fee. It's purely like subscription based. Where Affinity, what's really cool is there's no subscription. It's all just like a one flat fee, and that's all you pay. Now every once in a while, every few years, they'll have like massive updates that'll completely like change the program or like add a lot of new features, and then which at that point you'll have to pay for the upgrade, which is what I did. I had Affinity version 1, but when you pay for the upgrade, they heavily discount it. Like I think I paid like 50 to 60 bucks for the upgrade for all 3 programs. So it's a really good deal. Long story short, it's a really good deal. Even at this price, it's not bad, but honestly, like I would just wait around for a minute, and you might end up getting all 3 of these for like half the price. They go on sale like a lot. So check it out. Affinity is really cool. I highly recommend it. It's got like I said, at least 95% of the features of Adobe Photoshop or the Adobe Suite, minus the AI stuff. But check it out. I use it, and that's, been really happy with it. So let's go ahead and go back. Just want to show you the pricing there. So like I said, this is a Affinity Designer persona that I'm in, and you can see here, this is where I made my sticker decals. So the first thing I did is when I went to go find the company that was going to print the decals, and I looked up how they were going to make the actual like decal sheets, the maximum size decal sheet that they use, and by the way, that company is called it's called stickerapp.com, I think. Their maximum size sticker sheet was 10 by 10 inches. So the first thing I did was just to set up the size of the image to be 10 by 10. So when you go in the file and you create new, you just open up here, and it's got all these different like print sizes. So you could do letters and all that. I usually just go custom, and I'll just put in 10-inch width, and then a 10-inch height. So it's just a box, just like that. And then we'll go to create. So there we go. This one actually does have margins on it, which probably don't want. So let's just go ahead and delete that. Can't delete, or we'll just start a new one. Made a mistake, forgot to get rid of the margins on that, so go 10. I don't like margins, but sometimes if you're making like a book or a magazine or something like that, you might not want margins. So we'll go and zero out the margins. That's just a personal preference thing. So get rid of all of those, and oops, 0. I apologize, it's going to be a different video than my normal videos where it's like quick and concise, but you can't rush this stuff. It takes a lot of time. So I'm going to throw my glasses on too so I can actually see. Okay, so we got all our margins set. We'll go ahead and create. And all right, so we'll just go ahead and work with this. So the next thing, looks like it still has margins, so I probably missed another thing. So the next thing, I like to go to view and go to show grid. And the reason why I do this is because each larger block, so like four of the smaller squares, which is like a larger block, that's a 1-inch by 1-inch piece of real estate. And so knowing that this sheet is going to be a 10 by 10, I'll set up the image to be a 10 by 10 inch image, just so that way I know I'm working to scale. And like I said, I'm not perfect at this, but I'll be honest, these decals came out pretty good. Pretty close. Okay, so we got that. And so at this point, you're going to want to start, taking images that you probably already made and putting them on this decal sheet. So we're going to come back to this. So we'll get rid of this one that we don't use. Let's go back to my current decal sheet. So what I actually did before I started working on the actual like full decal pages itself is I actually made all of these little images beforehand. So like the Intimidator logo, of course, these are all just like the same logo, just scaled in size. These little Chevy badges, I made these individually, and then changed some colors and stuff like that. This text like Fast RC, One Bad SS, these are all like, I made these individually. And so I'll go ahead and show you that. So let's take a look at like the Intimidator. So this is the Intimidator badge, and we could see on the right hand side here, you can see all the little individual components. This is like a grouped logo. And I mentioned before that primarily all the decals you're going to make are going to be some type of vector graphic. And so what that means is like each piece that you see within this like logo is an individual like digital graphic that can be scaled up infinity, like to infinity, without loss of resolution, which is important when you're doing decals. So you're not going to lose resolution whether you scale it down or scale it up. So if I click on one portion here, so like this ID, so you can see here that this box is ID, and I'll go ahead and zoom in. The I and the D are actually minus the dot here at top. This is actually like one object. And the way you do that is, so I didn't freehand these, I'm not that talented. The way you do that is you go and you actually like Google and try to find an image of what you're looking for, is probably like the easiest way. And then kind of like you're back in grade school, you trace over it. Like how you put like the really thin paper that you can see through it, and then you would trace the object over it of what you're trying to draw. So kind of similar concept here, except you're doing it on your computer instead of by hand. So I don't have the old image that I used for this Intimidator logo, but we can go find it. So let's go do that. So let's go ahead and fire up the browser again, and we'll go ahead, and I already got the window open so we don't waste your time. So I just went ahead and searched Chevy Intimidator badge image, and you can see there's like a bazillion different images. The key here, if you're trying to make like a logo or something very specific, you want to try to find the image that is like directly like head on, and it's not like distorted at a weird angle or anything like that. So like this image probably wouldn't work very good. This image would be okay, actually probably be pretty decent, to be honest. This one not so much, you can tell it's at an angle. This one might work, but I'll show you. I actually did find the actual image that I used. I ended up using this one, which was a picture from some like eBay store, but you could tell that this is the actual like image of like a badge. So I ended up just taking, what I did is I usually just copy, or I'll save the image. So in this case, we'll go ahead and just save that off screen. Just save it. There we go, save that. And then, or we could just copy it too. So we'll just go and copy, do that, and then we'll drop it right in there. So there we go, here's our image. We dropped that right into the picture, and if I scale this up, you can kind of see what I'm talking about. So like, or better yet, we'll just go ahead and let's just go ahead and make a new image, or actually take that back. That's not what we want to do. Just make a new page. So we got a brand new blank page. I don't know what this Chevy logo's doing down here. Like I said, I'm not like a professional at Affinity. I just kind of know enough to make stuff. But here we go. Got our blank page. We'll go ahead and scale this up, just like this. It doesn't matter if it hangs off. We're really just focused on this Intimidator badge. So, all right, so we got that in. Now I'll be honest, like I don't have the best set of eyes, so a lot of times I'll zoom in a lot. And while we're tracing, we're gonna really focus on like one letter at a time. And when I start to trace this, and you're going to start to see the images, or not the images, but you're going to see the vector graphics start to pop up on this right hand side, and that's going to be each object. So we're not going to spend a ton of time on this. I'm going to show you like 1 or 2 letters just so you get the idea of how we trace these objects, and you'll get the hint from there. Another thing, as we trace these with inside of the designer persona, we're going to use the pen tool, which is how we trace and make a vector object, like a custom vector object. One thing I want to explain about this pen tool is it's kind of like an interesting tool for making like objects. It's very custom, and it's kind of intuitive. Like, it's hard to explain. You kind of just have to like play around with it and get a feel for how to like tweak the lines and things like that. But let's just go ahead and dive in. So here's my image. I'm going to focus on the eye first. So let's just go ahead and zoom all the way into this eye. We want to like blow it up because my eyes aren't very good and I can't see. And your guys, if you're watching this on your phone, it's probably super small to you. So let's just blow it up. Focus in on this eye. We are going to make the eye. So let's go ahead and click the pen tool. And we're just going to start anywhere. Now, none of this is permanent. We can make adjustments to any of our anchor points at any time. So nothing permanent, just start. So I'm going to start here on the very corner and my first dot, and then I'm going to make my second dot, and you're going to see the line appear. So let's just do that right here. So there's a line, and you could see here that I actually do have like a line stroke on it, which is a 2 pixel line stroke. I do that so I'm able to see the line and what I'm actually like tracing. So just follow along and you'll see. So I'm gonna make my third dot here. So it looks kind of weird, but we're gonna turn this into a curve and it's gonna look a lot better. And then we got this long straight line, so I'm gonna take it all the way over here, stop right before the curve, and then I'm gonna make my next dot on the other side of the curve where we'll go ahead and bend that line, and I'll show you here in just a second. Keep on going, and let's just zip through. I'm gonna go as fast as I can. I don't want to waste anybody's time. So I like this, when I get to curvy sections, I like to stop and add at least 2 anchors so I can make the curve. I don't want to just zip through it, because then a lot of times when you try to make the curves, it's hard to do. So we're pretty good. I'll add one there. I might have to delete a curve here. We'll see. Like that, like that. Like I said, it doesn't have to be perfect. Just get really close. Just kind of ride the edges of the letter. Go right here, stop before the curve, make another anchor. We might even be able to just kind of stretch this one out. And then I'll scroll over, holding shift and using my mouse wheel, I can scroll left or right. And then if I hold the control button on your keyboard, then you can zoom in and out. So little hacks there. It's quicker to use some keyboard shortcuts for sure. So we'll go like that, add our anchors, go right around these curves, boom, 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 and we're almost done. We'll zoom out and then we'll just go right to the start. So once you get back around the letter or the object that you're trying to chase or trace, you always want to make sure you connect it to the very first dot that you placed, or very first anchor, which I'm going to do right there. So that completely completes the vector object. And so if I turn off the image, this is what we have left. So it's the start of the eye. And so let's zoom back in. We'll turn on the image. And so now the next step here is we need to adjust the curves, because this looks really ugly. I turn off the image, it's all blocky, there's no curves. So we're gonna fix that right now. So let's start on this side again. We'll turn on the image, which we're tracing. And then I think I'm gonna lower down the points on this because it's kind of hard to see. So let's just go down to like half a point, 0.5. So we're gonna narrow it for now. It's just so that way we can see the actual underlying object. And so let's start with this curve. So what we're gonna do is click right in the middle. It's me left click with your mouse, and you can see I'm making a little curve there. So we'll zoom in and you can see I clicked right in the middle and I can drag it and I'll make this little curve. And I'm doing that because the actual like letter on the image has that kind of like swooping curve. So we zoom out, and it doesn't have, like I said, it doesn't have to be perfect, just really close. And then this one, we'll kind of drag this back. So this tool I'm using, this is called the node tool. This is how you manipulate the anchors on a vector image. And so it kind of looks like I probably should have added, I maybe should have added like another anchor at some point. So we could do that like that and then drag this down, because we kind of have like a curve here, and I should have added like another anchor. So that's okay. So what I did is I just clicked in the middle of it and I clicked left click down and added another anchor. And now I'll go ahead and add my curve just like that, so it's not such a hard corner. When you adjust these curves, you can click in the middle and you could drag them like in and out like that. You can also drag them left and right, which adjusts the type of curves. And like I said, it's all kind of like feel. Like you just kind of get a feel for how to make these curves. And then before you know, it's like second nature. Like, oh yeah, I'm dragging it like this. I want to make this type of shape. So that's that. So we got those curves. That looks a lot better. Let's just keep on, and we just kind of keep going through the shape. It's, you know, it's a little bit time consuming, I'll be honest. It does take a lot of time, but when we're in this hobby, we're dedicated to the craft, and this is just what we do. We make these things. And if you saw my last video, which I already have pinned up, it came out really, really good. Like I was really happy with it. So we just kind of keep on going down. And so like some of these longer lines, sometimes we want to like bow them in or out just a little bit, depending on what we're trying to do. I just try to stay faithful to the image, and I'll try to hug it as much as possible on the edge. And then I'll zoom in here. We're going to make this curve where the eye just kind of pokes out. And then we're going to bring this curve and suck it in just like that. It might look a little janky when we're up close, but you'll see what I mean. Like it's going to look better for sure. So we keep on going over here, and I'm just kind of scrolling around. We'll make this curve. We'll try to speed this up. There we go, just like that. And so we can see this longer line here, I'm going to zoom out, is kind of way overhanging. So we're going to go right in the middle of it and just suck it up like that. So there we go. Looks like it hugs the bottom of that eye really well. We'll make a slight curve here. Nothing too crazy, just a slight curve so we don't have a hard edge. We're going to pull this curve out a little bit, just like that. And this one, we may have to go back to this curve just a tad because you could tell it's like a little bit off. And if you make a mistake, don't hesitate. You can go back to edit and undo move, and then undo move there. So like I kind of made a mistake. Let's see if we can adjust it. We'll kind of go like that. That looks a little bit better, a little bit more straight. Like I said, with this node tool, you can always add more nodes. So like for example, if I needed another anchor in here somewhere, or like node, I could totally do that. But I think I pretty much got it for now. So we'll add our curve here. Looks good. We'll kind of bring this one down just a tad. We'll zoom over. These curves are really easy. You just go right in the center and just pull them in, just like that. Good enough. Might even have to go up a little bit, kind of like, there we go, like that. Looks pretty good. I'm going to control and scroll out. This line, I kind of like this one. It's hugging the edge pretty well. We'll zoom in here. We'll fix this curve. There we go. And then we'll fix this curve right back to back. Look at that. Nice and tight. Looks good. And then we'll scroll over. We're almost done. This one, you can almost just eyeball this from high level, just like that. And then we'll zoom in really tight. This curve here, just kind of go like that. Like I said, if there's like a little bit of overhang, it's okay. You just want to try to get close. The important thing is you get close enough. Honestly, like this decal is going to be so small that you're not going to notice like the little imperfections. You just want to get it close enough. And then we got this long line here. This is the last curve we got to set, which is just like that. We just kind of suck it down. Bam, there we go. And so if I zoom out and I turn off the image, this is how our image looks now. So this is how the eye looks, which looks pretty good. And I know it's kind of hard to see, so let's go ahead and give it some color. Let's give it 200, 200, 200. Looks like, let me switch to RGB. 200, 200, 200. So kind of like a gray. There you go, bam. That looks pretty darn close to what I used on my actual Intimidator build. And you can kind of see what I mean. So now we took all the hard edges away, and this is pretty close. And if I turn on the image back on, look at the coverage. Like I would say we covered like maybe 99% of it. Like it's very, very close. And then if I want to crank up the outline like edges of it, I could totally do that. So let's change the outline edges to black, just like this. There we go. And then we'll change the stroke. We'll crank this up to like 1. Yeah, there we go. Turn off the image. Oh, for some reason it didn't work. Oh, because we took the stroke away. There we go. And then we'll change the... Oh, because I was doing that. Gosh. You got to select the image or the object first. Stupid me. Okay. Change this to black. There we go. And then we'll change the stroke width. Like I said, we'll give it like 1 point. So now we got a nice black outline. There you go. If we overlay that over the image again, bam. Like complete coverage. Looks really, really good. So that's how I do it, guys. Like that's pretty much how, like, everything I made on my decal sheet, that's basically how I did it. So I only had to do, we'll come back to this later. I only had to do this one time. Like I made this Intimidator logo one single time, and then all I've ever since it's a vector graphic, I just scale it up or scale it down depending on what I need. And so if we go back, let's go back to the publisher persona, look at the decal sheet. If I zoom in, you can see that's all I did. I just made, these are all these little images, our little vector graphics. And then what I did was right here I group them, so like they have their own groups, so like Intimidator logo, and if you open it up, it's all the little components that I made, like I just showed you with the I, like the ID, the R, these are all just curves, the O, the T, inside of the A, which I kind of had to do separately, but yeah, that's basically how you do it. Like it's just a lot of like old school like tracing objects. I've done it for more than just this. Like I've made like t-shirts and all sorts of different stuff for like fantasy football. But it's just tracing kind of, and it's kind of, I'll be honest, kind of cathartic too. Like sit here and just like trace through this stuff. Just throw on like a podcast or listen to some music or something and just work your way through it. But yeah, that's all that is for the Intimidator. And so I did the same thing with these logos, these Chevy logos, just kind of like traced over them, put some different effects on them. And then I also did that with these SS badges down here. Same thing, I just traced right over them, changed the color, gave them a little bit of a stroke outline. And then my Fast RC badge that I have on the YouTube channel, same thing. I set the letters. These are actual like text. I didn't trace these. I just had to text. And then I used like a circle vector. Pretty cut and dry. Like it's very simple. So, all right. So that's how I did the Intimidator logo. I hope you got something out of that part. It's just a lot of tracing and then filling in the objects just like we did on this page here. So if I was to continue on, I would trace the N next. Then I would do the T. I would do the I, the bottom part of the I and the N together. So that was just like one continuous run. And then I would do the dot for the I separately. So that's how that works. It's pretty cool. Takes a little bit of time to like just get used to it, but once you get going, like it's kind of like you could totally do it by feel. All right, so here's another example of the SS where I just kind of like totally like trace through it. You can see all the different sections of the object that we did. So like just like that. I actually think I only did one S and then I just duplicated it. I was lazy. Use copy and paste to your advantage for sure. Next part I want to cover with you guys is this undercarriage. So if you saw my last video, my /4x4, I have a decal on the bottom of the chassis plate, and I made it to kind of resemble like the actual like undercarriage of a vehicle, of like a Silverado. And I totally just like made this by myself. Like I tried to find like images of like a Silverado undercarriage, and believe it or not, it's kind of like harder to find than you would think. So I just like winged it and did like a hot rod style undercarriage. All of these are just objects. So like this transmission that I made in the middle, I totally like freehanded this thing with the pen tool that I just showed you. Like I just made a freehand like object. I think actually, take that back. What I did, I didn't freehand it. I actually went to Google and I think I searched up something like let's see, I probably did like a transmission vector image. I think I did something like this. And I probably looked at like an image like this, like just a really simple vector. Let's see if there's any. Yeah. Oh, actually, this is the one I used. Funny enough. So like, yeah, I took this vector image. I just copied the image. So just like right click, copy, and then I went back to here and then I just pasted it. And you can kind of see, so I just pasted it like that, and then I changed it to 90 degrees, dragged it over here. You could see exactly like how I copied it. It just kind of did an overlay like that. And then the exact same process I just showed you. Like I just went kind of line by line, traced the outside of the transmission case. And then the inside, I just did this myself. I just added some shapes and some circles to kind of make it look mechanical. I did a transfer case down here. I didn't trace this at all. This is just freehand, like a box with like an output shaft from a transfer case for 4x4. The drive shaft, this is just a simple rectangle with a 3D layer effect on it. So if I open that up, you can add different effects to objects like 3D. And so I put like a circular 3D effect on it, and I just kind of played with the radius pixels until I got something that resembled like a pipe. And if I just kind of play around with it, you can see like if I bring the pixels down, how it like flattens out the pipe, or if I crank it all the way up, it turns into like a much more like circular pipe. So I just kind of juggled around until I found something that I thought looked good, which was like around like 53-ish pixels. That kind of looks like a drive shaft. And then same thing here. So like this fuel tank or fuel cell is really just like a oval. It's just like an oval shape that I put a 3D vector on, and then I put these little bars that made it look kind of like a fuel cell. And then same thing with the exhaust, which is really cool. It's just like 3D effect on like a rectangle. And if I open it up, here it is, 3D effect on the rectangle, 36 pixels. If I change it up and down, you can see the muffler, the actual muffler body change. So like I said, I just kind of had it around like 30-ish. That looks like kind of looks like a what's the name of the brand? You know, the exhaust brands, MagnaFlow or like a Flowmaster. I was kind of going for like a Flowmaster look. But just kind of sat here and just like said, okay, I'm gonna make an undercarriage, and did a dual exhaust tip. Just so it looks cool. Got some fuel lines and a fuel return. The cool part about this, and I know I've been talking forever, is just have fun with it. Like, just have fun with it. Like, I just went into it. I was like, I'm just gonna make an undercarriage. I have no idea how it looks or like how it should look. So I'm gonna just, in my mind, I'm gonna pretend and make my own undercarriage with exhaust and all that stuff, and just have fun. Because ultimately it doesn't matter. It's your stuff, and you try to make it look as cool as possible. That's it. So that's the undercarriage. This was really cool to put on my truck. I'll flash up some images here at some point, but take a look. Like, it ended up really, really good. I'm really happy with it. And you know, here's the image here. So, all right, so let's get out of that. Okay, so before I start talking about the actual like company that makes the decals or made the decal sheet for me, there's one other thing I want to touch on. Like I said, this is a 10 by 10 inch decal sheet. Be aware of how big or small you're making your decals, and then how close they're spaced together. So one problem I ran into, you need at least, I think they said at least a 1/4 inch of space between each like image. So that way their machine can cut out the individual stickers. So that was one thing I got dinged on, and I had to fix it and send them another image back. Another thing I noticed too is, so these decals, they came out very, very well. Like, the detail is like top notch. I was very happy with it. But the one issue that I ran into, so if you look at the bow ties on this decal sheet, these bow ties, they ended up being too small for the actual like scale of the truck that I was trying to put them on. And I did measure, so I measured my body, and I think it was maybe like a half inch long decal at the most is like ½ inch. And I was like, okay, so like when I made them inside here, you can see that each Chevy decal, if I drag it, they're about a ½ inch from point to point. And I figured, okay, that should be enough. Like, it should fill the little like Chevy emblem section on the body itself. But come to find out, the sticker app company, when they print these decal sheets, they actually take your image and they shrink it down a little. They scale it down a little bit, so that way there's a cut line on the edge. And I did not know that. So what ended up happening is these bow tie logos ended up being way too small, and that's my fault, because I didn't realize that was going to be a thing. But funny enough, I kind of anticipated sizing being an issue, which is why I made so many different sizes of the Intimidator badges, because I wanted to make sure I had something that would work. So I literally got like 3 sizes of them. So that's kind of a bummer. Just keep in mind that you're probably going to have to scale up your images. I would say somewhere around like maybe 10 to 15% more than what you think it would be, in order to get it. Because when they shrink that down to make the page, in order, so it's not so far off on the scale side. So I hope that kind of makes sense. I honestly don't know the exact answer. I'll probably make another decal sheet at some point, and what I'll end up doing is like increasing the size of like these little badges, and I'll just kind of have to experiment with it and see what the exact like ratio I got to do, because I'm not quite sure exactly how far they scale it down, but I do know this image is scaled down compared to what I sent them. So just keep that in mind. Alright, so last section of this video is going to be the actual company that I use to make this sticker sheet. So I use this website called stickerapp.com. I don't know, I just found them on Google. They had some pretty good reviews, and I kind of like the different type of decals that they offered. So they actually do offer like a wide range of different stickers, such as like clear vinyl or just regular white vinyl, holographic. They have clear, which is what I used on this. I ended up using a clear vinyl. They have mirror coat, pixel dust, I got all these different kinds. So what I did is I clicked on the button to make a custom sticker. And then for die cut stickers, I actually changed this to a sticker sheet. So it's going to be a square. And then I just selected clear. And then as far as like the sizes, so this is the one bummer, I'll be honest. I went to custom size, and then I did I think the max you could do is 10. So 10 by 10, just like that. So there we go. And the one bummer is that the minimum quantity that you can buy is 3 pieces, which is $42. So it is very expensive. So I actually have 2 extra sticker sheets that I'm not using at the moment. So it kind of sucks. So just keep that in mind. You might want to try to find like a different sticker like company, maybe where you could just only have to buy like 1 sticker sheet instead of 3. So that's kind of a bummer, but I just figured, well, at some point maybe I'll make like another Intimidator vehicle. But I will be honest, like even though it sucks that I had to buy 3 of these, I am very happy with the quality. They came out excellent. So I know for sure like the undercarriage I'll probably use on some other vehicles at some point. So I'm not too worried about it. But that's how I did it. So pretty much from here, you could change from glossy to matte. I like the glossy. The glossy is what I picked, and it came out very well. The image quality is very good, very sharp. Even these smaller Intimidator logos came out very nice, very well detailed. And what's cool is they actually pre-cut all of the stickers on your sticker sheet, so you don't have to take the razor blade like we normally do in the RC hobby and like cut them out. You could cut them a little bit tighter tolerances if you want. I was okay with the custom or the standard cut job they did. Came out okay. But yeah, basically click from here. You just click next, and then it's gonna give you this. It's gonna ask you to upload your image, which I don't have on this computer at the moment. But basically, from this point forward, you're just gonna upload your image. It's gonna show up here. All right, let's take a look. Maybe I do have it. See, this is the tough part. I ended up building a new computer, and so I had all my stuff on my old computer, and now I'm like trying to get it all set up on this new one. Let's see if I got it. I might actually have it. Oh, look at that. I got it. Okay, let's upload this. There we go. So here's my image, and then I'm just going to go ahead and stretch it out to 10 by 10, just like this. Stretch it all the way out, and it'll lock in place. Like it'll stop and lock like fully in place. I don't think I got it. There we go. So this is maxed out. So I dragged it edge to edge, and it'll show you the cut lines. And this is the part, like I said, where I didn't realize that it is going to it's going to create the cut and the bleed lines, and it does kind of like compress the image a little bit. So if I was to do this again, I would make all of my logos maybe like I want to say like maybe a 1/4 inch to a little less than a 1/4 inch bigger, so that way when they scale down it's not so bad. But yeah, pretty much from this point, like you just upload the image, which is what I just did. And actually, let me backtrack. I forgot. So once you have your sticker sheet, you're gonna go ahead and press File and Export. I typically will export these images as PNG files because PNG files allow you to have for the image to have a transparent background, which is what you want, especially if you're going to do a clear sticker, where you don't want it to have like a stock white background. So I always pick the PNG file format, and then I'll export it that way, and it'll give me a transparent background. So yeah, there's that. We'll go back here. And so yeah, you can see my images. You have all my logos, and then the checker in the background, that just means it's transparent. and then I would, from here, I'd click add to cart, and I would go ahead and purchase it. I'd say turnaround time was about, I want to say it was about 2 weeks. It was about 2 weeks-ish. A little bit of a turnaround time. Like, it was a little bit longer because I had to send them a different proof because I messed up my initial one. But yeah, long story short, this does work. The decals, I actually am very happy with the quality of the decals. They are expensive, but if you're doing this for like a super custom build and you're doing something that's totally unique, it might be worth it to you. So that is all I got for that. All right, so let's go ahead and close this thing out. So I hope you got something out of this. I know this video is like super long. Usually my videos are like 7 to 10 minutes tops. But this video kind of takes a long time because there's a lot of steps to go through. And I try to go into some detail without going into like a full 2-hour long video of how to make the logos. I covered a lot of the high points, but if you got any questions, go ahead and drop those in the comments. If you made it this far, I wouldn't blame you if you didn't make it this far in the video. But if you did and you have any questions, please feel free to drop them in the comments. I'd be happy to try to answer. But like I said, the entire process, getting the software, making the images, doing the tracing, filling those in, and then using a company like Sticker App or something like that, you can make your own custom decals. You can do things that are totally custom that you can't buy in a store. Something like this, where you literally cannot buy these Intimidator logos in the store for an RC car. It's just total custom. So that's all I got for that. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you got any questions, please feel free to comment on the video, and I'll catch you guys on the next one.